welcome everybody who is watching and who will watch later. I just want to welcome you to the Gridiron Survivor live stream. Today, we are talking to Chris Nowicki. Chris was a Gridiron Survivor member previously, and he landed his first software engineering job. So I wanted to bring him on to kind of answer some questions from the team. We have a lot of new members on the team. But first of all, what is Gridiron Survivor? I have been like reviewing portfolios, like hundreds of them, for a couple years ago, and noticed that a lot of juniors didn't have a lot of good projects and didn't have good experience. And it wasn't their fault at all. It was just a lack of opportunities and like lack of internships and apprenticeship programs. So I decided that, hey, I let's create something to help these individuals out, and that is where we are now. So with Grand Survivor, we go through sprints, we go through our Kanban board, we have tickets, we do sprint points for estimations. We have thorough code reviews with unit testing and feature development and all that. And it's definitely very thorough. I want these individuals to learn and understand what they are implementing, not just like that it works, but understanding like functionality and pros and cons of what they're kind of implementing. So this whole process came about, and I think Chris was this part of the second group that came through, and definitely wanted to get his gauge.
Did he just freeze?
I think.
He froze. He froze. Oh no. Is the stream still
I
going?
just I tapped my
It's
AirPod. I was like, oh no, what did I just do? He's probably still talking, and he'll probably come back and let's just
Yeah.
pretend nothing happened.
Well, I'll continue to take this on. So I think he wanted to do some introductions. Hey Shashi, are you back?
I'm back. Sorry, go ahead. Do your intro. Here's Chris.
So my name is Chris Nowicki. I am a software engineering lead at This.co. This.co is a software development agency where we help people with all types of software, everything from web applications to mobile applications. Currently, we are hiring React Native developers. So if you're interested out there, jobs at This.co is a great place to send an email to if you have advanced or expertise in that specific area. I was a part of the Gridiron Survivor team probably from March of last year until November when I got my role. Probably it was more like October, really, once we all knew that it was happening. And it was an extremely valuable experience for prepping me for where I'm at now at this labs. And so happy to talk about kind of how Gridiron Survivor helped prepare me and some things that a cohort and other things probably will not be able to prepare you for until you get into that job. And we're coming on 6 months now that I've been with this lab. So it's been 6 months has gone by pretty fast.
Awesome. Well, why don't I ask you the first question? How are you enjoying being a full-time software engineer?
I tell you what, I love it. I absolutely love it. My role is kind of a mixture of two roles. My main priority is I'm a project coordinator, what This.labs calls an engineering lead, and I have a project. I interface with the customer directly. I manage the team, the board, the priorities, create tickets, do stand-ups. Basically, I'm a Shashi, a Gridiron Survivor for my little program. So that is my main priority. And then the second part of my job is I am expected to jump in and code as time allows with the team. So I usually pick up smaller tickets that are kind of little cleanup code, little things that I can do fairly quickly, as my other developers are senior developers are working on kind of bigger features as they're more at the time more aware of the in-depth code base that we have. So I love it. Getting to geek around with tech every day is awesome. Getting to learn new code is awesome. Learn how how different projects use DevOps and all the different areas. I mean, we have in the project I'm working on, we have repos for our configs for prod, for staging, for other areas. We have deployment repos that manage our AWS deployments, and then our multiple containers that are used there that scale based on use of the product. And then we're using Vercel as well for our front end application. Um, at when I was doing Gridiron Survivor, yeah, that's the short piece of it. That's my short way of saying I love it. I get to geek out on tech every day. It's a new problem and challenge, and I think something I've learned in the past 6 months is this role, regardless if you're an engineering lead or you're a senior engineer on it or doing a combo of both, it's a problem solving job. It's you're always looking at, okay, what is the problem to solve? How much effort needs to go into solve this problem? Are there tests for the problem once the problem is written? All that type of stuff. And what is the needs and the problems change, or challenges, I would say, change every day. Oh, Shashi froze again. Poor guy. That was question one.
I think it's just open to the floor now.
Yeah, go
Anybody
for it.
that has a question, go ahead and ask Chris.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How did you go from, I guess, what motivated you from going from development side to managerial side, right? Because I think that comes often quite, you become a technical product manager, right? Because
Mhm.
you're technical compared to like just a standard product manager who probably isn't technical, but now they can be with all the generative AI where they just prompt it and then it gives them a high level of what we're doing as developers. So I guess to rephrase it, what made you pivot from development side to the managerial side?
Well, I think the key thing here is I didn't pivot. I
Okay.
combined the two together. So,
Okay.
and here's why. Prior to this Labs, I was in aerospace defense for almost 18 years, with the last 8 to 10 years at the company being in a senior management role. So I was a senior manager overseeing a department. I had a team of anywhere from 20 to 30, depending on the work, reporting to me. I didn't manage the day-to-day of every program. I had leads that did that. And I spent about 2.5, 3 years trying to break into tech after graduating from boot camp. It wasn't until I got connected with Shashi and started heavily investing in building online, doing Gridiron Survivor, or building a public Gridiron Survivor and conferences. Gridiron Survivor, I got added into, and then as the year went on last year, the standard development jobs just were not happening. And the reason is because of the experience. People looked at me and they go, "Man, you got 18 years of real world experience. Cool. But how much day to day in software engineering do you have?" And the answer was, what I did on Gridiron Survivor and my own side projects. Um, when the opportunity with this Labs became available, I went about it I met the VP of innovation, Rob, at that conference, and I met him at Render earlier that year. And what came out of that was, hey, you know what I think be a good idea? Let's just see where your skills are at. Why don't you do our coding challenge? I didn't apply for a job or anything, so I did their coding challenge. And he came back to me and he's like, "Oh, wow." He's like, "Okay, like, you're not a junior developer, but you're not a senior developer, and we're not hiring juniors or mid-level developers." But he also knew my story and my background through my networking. And he's like, "But we have an engineering lead position available. Sometimes you get to code, sometimes you don't. If that interests you, let me know." So I then uh, uh, called out to my lifeline, Shashi, and I was like, "What do I do, man? What do I do?" Because, Shashi's here to help you all, right? He's here to help give you advice, especially when it comes to applying, interviewing, right? And Sasha goes, man, this is your break. Right. And I kind of thought it was my break, but I was concerned at first, Luis, that I wasn't going to code anymore. And that's really what I love doing. What I learned in 6 months is that I still get to code, but the stuff that I'm involved in at a higher architecture level now is awesome. I am learning how apps are, regardless of what, right now, the web app that we're working on, how decisions are made, how, we troubleshoot if we need to do a certain feature. I'm involved at a higher level where I get to geek out at the technical aspect and then watch it from there to implementation with the team. And I've learned and grown from there, along with, even though you're not coding, I'm reading code every single day. I'm in GitHub every day, reviewing PRs, understanding what's happening in the code. I am reading more than I'm writing. But that's because of my role and where I'm at. When my team submits a PR, I go in and kind of check the certain areas that I know are going to change. And if I don't understand, I ask questions, and it goes from there. So I think that's my long answer, Luis, is that it was a good pivot for me to break into this part of tech, using my past experience and skills, my soft skills, and combining them with my new tech skills. And this Labs, they saw a lot of value. And normally, you're right. Normally people are developers for 4, 5, 6 years, and then they go into a lead type role. I don't manage any people. I'm an independent contributor. My job is managing projects, not people. And yeah, I think I'm very thankful I took the plunge. It's the 6 months into it was being 6 months into it. Sorry. I think that has been the most challenging part for me, is I went into it without doing the job and then leading a project of people who have been doing the job for many years. But I had to bust my butt, and I'm still busting my butt every single day, for that aspect of it. Now I get better every day. I take feedback from leadership constantly. And the goal is they tell me something once and I never have to fix it again. So about 2 weeks ago, they flew me out to New York City to meet with our client one-on-one. And so, I know I'm on the right track and everything, but it's definitely not just yay, you land your job. Okay, sit back and coast. It's probably, I would say, take Gridiron Survivor times a billion. It's because you're jumping in, you're now going, hey, you hired me to say do a thing. Now you got to show up and be able to do that thing. So there comes a level of insecurity that comes in there, and you have to learn how to manage that insecurity. You have to learn how to build confidence in yourself and what is success and not success, and learn how to communicate with your management. But the biggest thing is this, and I know I've kind of rambled, but I'm just going to continue this last part. At this Labs, they encourage questions. Like, my management goes, it's an issue to us if you don't raise questions. Even if you're like not sure, raise the question. It's better to raise it and have it be a non-issue than not raise it and have it be a major issue. And go from there. So yeah, sorry. I talked a lot.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Chris. Next question.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, sorry. So I kind of wanted to ask, just because, like, with Gridiron, like it kind of gives you the sense of like getting thrown into code base and like trying to learn a code base. So I kind of want to ask, like, how is onboarding for you and kind of just getting thrown into the code base, and like how did you go about learning it and like learning the things?
So onboarding was insane, and not a bad way. This project is huge. We have a Next.js front-end app. We have a PHP backend app that has 3 mono repos in it that are doing different things and deployed to different containers in AWS, and then getting all those environments set up on my computer with Docker, MySQL, the database dump, the right credentials, the right EMV files. it took me about, I think, a good solid week to be able to spin up the environment locally. Um, so that's the first thing, and it's not because anything was wrong with documentation. The documentation was there. It's that it's just a very, very complex project that has a lot of moving parts. So understanding which mono repo to start up when you need to um, test this one thing, or do you need to have this running? And then recently we enabled single sign-on using SDP initiated auth. And how do you test that locally, without having an HTTPS server locally? And so then there's, setting things up like that. So that's kind of what's been happening along with it. I'll tell you this. When I asked my management, so I'm a Next.js, TypeScript, JavaScript guy. Like, I know it pretty well. The whole backend is pretty much in PHP. I've never touched or used PHP minus some WordPress templates like 10 years ago, and I was just messing around with hacking those up. I remember the first week saying, "Hey team, what do you recommend for me to best get spun up on PHP? I mean, do I need to go do a Laravel app? We're not using Laravel, but do I need to? What do I need to do?" And they gave me one response. Can you guess what that response was?
Google,
No.
Udemy,
Close.
YouTube,
No.
ChatGPT.
Ah. Hadi? Is it Hadi?
Yeah.
Hadi? You're right. AI.
Oh, okay.
AI. Absolutely. And we have some enterprise AI accounts, so that when I use the GitHub Copilot chat in my editor, I can use that, and that's how I learned PHP, is just asking questions. When I had to do a feature, it started off with just, "Hey, can you explain to me? Here's how I would do this in JavaScript. How would I do this in PHP?" And after that, and that's one part of it. The other part of it was reading code. When my team was developing a feature, I spent extra time reading the code to understand what was what. Why did they change these specific areas? Now, Gridiron Survivor, I know a lot of the times you all are asking questions inside of the PRs, like, "Hey, what does this mean? What does this mean?" We kind of do that a little bit differently. We're asking questions more outside and probably Slack in a lot of those areas, or ask for a pairing session to explain what's going on. But AI is, if you're not using AI, then you are going to fall behind quickly. I mean, it's changed very fast since I've joined in the last 6 months. It's a controversial issue. I know. But look, This.Labs is investing heavily in AI. We have a whole channel for it. We're all talking about how we're using it. We're encouraged to use it. Yeah, I think, I mean, we're not just relying on that in itself, but if you're not using AI, then you're using tools like Cursor and Windsurf, or getting involved with Vercel V0 and how that works, or Rue Code for some vibe coding, or AI. Alex, AI, reading code are the two ways.
Chad, I'll ask my question. Well, I guess I was gonna ask if you. I was gonna ask you first, like, just were you nervous, like, going into this job, since
Oh, heck yeah. I was nervous as crap, man. There's still days where I go, like, right. The reason why I was late to this call is because we had a really weird issue, because we haven't pushed our front end app, but we pushed the back end changes, which they weren't supposed to affect each other. And in production, out of the blue today, something started happening like right before this call, and I was on a call trying to figure it out with our leadership. I'm like, "Oh no, did I do something?" Which I didn't. But there is an aspect of, there's a lot of people who invested in me. Shashi, Gridiron Survivor team, invested in me. This.Labs, the CEO, Tracy, Rob, Elliot, Simone, a lot of the leadership has chosen to invest in me because they see value and potential. I was scared because I didn't want to let people down. I didn't, want to let my my family down. I took a significant pay cut, going into this role because I'm going in as an entry level person. Even though I have 18 years of experience as a manager, I had to take a pay cut. So I didn't want to let my family down. So yes, absolutely was I nervous, and I think that's okay. But you can't let that ruin you can't let that ruin your day. You can't let that, if you allow that to be the focus, then you are going to fail. A good advice given to me a while ago was, what are the things that you're nervous about, and dive into those. So I did in the last month, getting ready for our user acceptance testing, what starts on Monday. I've been working with our clients communications team for their automated emails. They use a crazy tool, and it's insane, of the campaigns and the user journeys and stuff that happen on this tool. And so I've been working with them to make sure those trigger properly in advance, and we caught a bunch of bugs advance, so that when the actual user acceptance testing starts, they're not hitting the bugs we should have found. They're hitting the edge cases, which makes user acceptance testing valuable. If they're hitting normal bugs that should have been found by the dev team or others in advance, and that's not beneficial. So if you can channel your energy away from identifying what you're fearful of, and then just showing up and doing it, when you're applying for jobs, don't lie about your ability, be honest about your ability. I think the most important thing is showing, do you have the ability to learn quickly and adapt quickly? And that's how you can overcome being scared out of your mind.
Yeah, so I kind of want to read what Michael put in the chat. So Michael goes, I'm also on a career changing path. I just reached for 20-year at my job and would like to know your take on the pros and cons of leaving secure work for a chance at a career
Yeah.
in tech.
Yeah. Michael, I'll say this. I had a very, very, very secure job. I was my managers that I had worked for in my previous company, I'd worked for over a decade. I was very, very good at my job. The question is, was I happy? And I was miserable. I hated my job. I did not enjoy it anymore. I was not happy. I was managing budgets and people, and I did not get to do anything technical like I did early on in my career. That's how you outweigh it. My wife tells me I'm still stressed because I'm nervous. I'm proving myself right now. I'm jumping in. I mean, look, one of my coworkers is Danny Thompson. I mean, the dude's awesome. He's super smart and brilliant.
The man himself.
The man himself. So I mean, when you're working alongside of these individuals who are just incredible human beings, but also just solid developers and just have a ton of experience, you get a little, like I said, you get a little nervous. But the pro is I'm happy. I love waking up every day and doing work, even when it's stressful. And when things start, like right now, we've been working hard since I joined the team in November. We have our first pilot launch coming up in 4 weeks, and the next 4 weeks is going to be user acceptance testing. And things are working for the most part, right? And so as soon as you start seeing all those connections that you've worked hard to make work, this will be the okay. I'm doing it. We're doing all right. So I would say, Michael, man, if you're miserable, the risk is you choose to stay where you're at now and be complacent and not do what you truly love. If you're just like, I really like what I do, but maybe this will be fun, then I would take a step back and say, why are you moving? Like I am passionate about tech. I'm passionate about software development. And I would say I've become even more passionate ever since working on it for a paycheck for the past 6 months.
Yeah, I would frame it this way too. When Chris was talking to me about it, and I know that the salary is going a little bit backwards, I said, think about it this way. In tech, you can advance so fast in 2 to 4 years. If you stay at your job, you'll probably incrementally go up 1, 2, 3% only, right? But in tech, like if Chris stays with this dot, they're gonna take care of him. But if he
Mhm.
decides, hey, I want a new job, when you jump jobs, you can go up 10, 20%, no problem, because now you have more experience, right? You cannot do that on a regular job, I'd say, like a non-tech job. That's why tech is so ridiculous. And that's why everybody wants to get into tech, is because these companies
Poor Shashi. He's having
will
struggle
pay
with
you a
it.
ton of money. Oh gosh, I'm back now. And for the knowledge you know and everything, right? Like they'll pay you for the experience that you have, and eventually he will be net positive in a couple, in a year or two here. Like he just has to showcase what he has and what he can do, and then eventually, everything will match up. With being paid correctly, being happy. Stress is always going to be there, but now it's like happy stress, right? It's like, oh, I get to like worry about cool stuff and fix problems, and instead of like, oh, like it's just a bunch of spreadsheets that I have to figure out how to get the call going. It's kind of boring. So
Oh,
yeah.
Luis, I think that's a good point. They throw you money for you to stay. When I told my management that I was leaving, my director, I had worked with him since 2007. We've been working in the same department, working together since 2007. And his first question was, Chris, are you sure? Have you thought about this? What can we do? And I told him, I said, guys, here is the pay cut that I am taking. And they went, oh, you're not joking around. They probably would have offered me another 25 to 30 grand to stay. I'm not kidding. I know that to be fact. And at some point, money doesn't matter anymore when you're absolutely miserable.
Great points, Chris. Cody, Hector, any questions from you guys?
Yeah, sure. I'll ask a question. You were talking about how at this dot you guys like really leverage AI. How would you recommend like members of like Gridiron Survivor who are self-taught devs and like early on in their journey? How can they like leverage AI to learn and not
Yeah.
like just use it as a crutch? I guess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things you can do. One is AI can be a great tutor. So if let's say Alex releases the most amazing code in the world, his Next.js is on par. He releases it, and you go, I have no clue what the crap this function does. Copy the function, as long as it has no secret keys or anything in that, right? Go to your AI choice, ChatGPT. I like Claude. Paste it in there and give it some prompts saying, "Hey, I'm new as a software developer. I have a basic understanding of XYZ code. Let's say it's JavaScript, TypeScript. Can you explain this code to me as a new developer, what each section of this code is doing and what it's dependent on? And if you have any questions for me, ask me." So it might go, "Hey, can you give me the code from, maybe you imported a function from utilities or from a lib file, it might say, hey, paste me that code as well." And then it's going to print out, okay, step one, here's what's happening. And then it goes here and then it does this. That's a really great way to start understanding code. The other thing that you can do is if you're using, GitHub Copilot, or if you're using Super Maven, which I used to use a lot of, um, when you're in your editor and you're trying to do something, you can type in a comment saying, hey, I'm going to create a function that removes a user from the database. Cool. And if it knows your code base, it'll help you write that. But you have to have an understanding of what it's writing to you when you start using AI assisted development, so you can check it. If you're really confident and as a developer in that specific area and you just know what you need to write, code can write it for you quickly. But as a tutor, that's what I do. I'll tell you what I do when I've been learning PHP as well. As I'm going, okay, what is the function that I need to write? What am I doing? How would I write that as a TypeScript? And I write it out as TypeScript, and then I copy and paste it. And I go, hey, how would you write this as a PHP function? And it kind of gives you some thoughts as well. And that's helped me learn. I would say play around. I would say use it like you would a teacher. You're in a classroom. Hey, I don't understand line 14 of this code. Here's the whole code base. Can you explain this part of me? Cool. and you'd be surprised at how much you learn that way.
No, yeah. I kind of wanted to jump in and say that a lot of my learning as self-taught has actually been AI, and I would just plug something in and I'd be like, "What's an array? How does it look? Like, give me examples." And then you can even ask it to give you like test questions so you can like give it answers and it teaches you.
Can you ask that last part one more time?
The last part. So you can even have it like give you like test questions in a sense, like, hey, like
Like
it'll give you like a scenario and then you like
a
give
quiz.
it code
Oh yeah,
as
yeah.
like an
Mhm.
answer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can do test questions. I'll tell you, when I was working Gridiron Survivor, the first thing I used AI for was writing those dang unit tests that Shashi wanted. I'm not kidding.
I
And
still
now the
do.
tools have gotten so much better.
It has
Uh,
gotten better.
you know what though? Hey, if you think it's cheating, it's not. I know. I mean, there's people on my team who are very high up in the company who said, you know what, I'm going to use AI and I'm going to give myself 30 minutes if I can write a decent unit test, and wrote a crap ton of unit tests, and they worked and deployed them, and it was great. So it's not beneath anybody to use. It's really being adopted across all levels at all
Agree.
companies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I use it. I use it to start my test, and then obviously I still understand the test, right? So if I need to tweak it or whatever, I will. But it's a really good base to start. But if I ask you questions of like why this is doing this or whatever, you better know what it's doing. Otherwise, it's like you can't just use AI to create the code and put it up there. You have to understand it. So, Hector, did you have any questions?
Yeah, but I also wanted to jump in on what you guys were just saying. Like the way I use AI, like if I'm stuck on something, instead of asking it like, how would you do this? I would like give a very detailed, thought out process of how I would do it. And I would say, I would also say like, don't include any code or anything, like just give me the processes, and it'll usually help me point me in the right direction. And sometimes even in the process of just writing that long description, I'll like figure it out myself. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's just how I personally use AI.
That's great.
But I also had a question, like you've also probably touched on this already. Like, was there anything you learned at Gridiron
Mhm.
that helped you start out after you got your job? Like, maybe it was something that like impressed another employee, or like something that made tasks easier to do. Like maybe something that just impressed yourself. Like, oh, I already know how to do this. Something like that.
I don't know. I would say that it was impressive because it's your common day-to-day tasks. Um, the biggest there's two big things that I learned from Gridiron Survivor, and there might be more than two, but two that I can think of right now. The first one is you all are located in different areas, right? Throughout the country, world, maybe. How many of you do not live in the United States? Anyone?
Everybody does.
Okay. Well,
Different
okay.
time zones, though.
All right. So the time zones I'm working with are one of the VPs over my project is based in London. One of my developers, I think, is based in Portugal. The other one is in Chile. My designer's in Ukraine. One of my other developers is in Africa. We're all working in the same code base. We're all working different features, but we're all working in the same code base. We're all merging in features at the same time, handling merge conflicts and stuff like that. So that's the first thing. At Gridiron Survivor, I think figuring, when someone else pushed code before you and then you had a ton of merge conflicts because it conflicts with what you're working on, was the first thing of learning how to understand how to work with merge conflicts is the first thing. The second thing, just your understanding of Git. Shashi, y'all still using GitKraken?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's okay. That is okay. Not something I thought was all senior developers use the command line for Git. That was a misconception on my end because they don't. A lot of them go, I've never used the command line. I just use GitKraken and it works great for me. So, but understanding how stashing works, stashing, merging, pushing PRs, writing good PRs, writing good tickets, um, all of those things combined, I think, is one of the biggest thing you're going to take away from this is communication. When you get with the team, your team's going to be remote. You don't want to be bogging down the team with questions you should know, like, hey, how do I do a rebase in GitHub? How do I do a reset hard in GitHub? How do I, oh my gosh, I just did this big error and I need to fix it. I don't want to bug everyone, so how do I do it? Side note, if you're not using Warp as your CLI, it's pretty great because you can ask it questions like, hey, I need to do this and get, it's a good reminder if you don't remember the command off the top of your head. But that's the first thing. The second thing is reading code. Participating in reading others' code and PR reviews, questioning things, asking things is very important to know how to do. And along with that, it's understanding how to not take comments personally. We all write code that we're pretty proud of and it works, but there's a lot of the times we don't take things into consideration. Or the project you're working on, Shashi may have a different preference of how he handles where you're defining the types and enums versus another person who's running the project who may not care as much. And so you have to learn how to adjust between what do my managers want, how do they want the project structure, but also what does the team need? What does the team want? And I think Shashi has done a great job with that with the team when he's meeting with you guys in meetings. That's a great place for you to go, hey, this isn't working, we're struggling with this. Now I don't mean we're struggling with writing unit tests, you got to get through that, but I mean, like, hey, this process is not working the best for us, we could do it better. Or hey, I'll tell you one thing we do with our team is on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have a half-hour tech chat, and we have a Google Doc where people put in things on the current product that they want to talk through. And all the developers and our leadership get together and we vote on which ones to talk through. We pull it down and then we all talk about a solution together and work together on a solution so that we're not all in a silo trying to figure it out. Now that didn't happen because of Gridiron Survivor, but in Gridiron Survivor, working as a team and understanding how to work is really important. If you can't communicate, then it's not going to work, even if you're in office, because there's ultimately someone who's going to be remote somewhere.
Awesome. So to follow up with that, I have a question from Will. What advice do you have for the new Gridiron Survivor members?
How many are there now, Shashi? I know this isn't everyone.
I think it's 10 new people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big group.
Are you guys doing the Secret Santa app?
That is correct.
Yeah, I remember judging that one. That was really cool. Let's see here. Communicate. Read others' PRs and try to get an understanding of what they're doing. In your circumstance, I think it's definitely okay to use the PRs as a place to learn. So ask questions in there on a specific line of code because others might be afraid to ask or not ask and might learn from it if you're reading the PRs. If you need help, reach out and ask. If you're working on something, I think, Shashi, you probably talked about this, but if you're working on something for maybe more than an hour and you're just not getting anywhere, and you've done research yourself, you've talked to AI, you've looked some stuff up online, or you're not finding anything, reach out for help. Not just to Shashi, but to the team. Hey, does anyone have time to pair with me and we can work through this together? And sometimes that pairing will fix it. And then I think one of the things we were just starting to do when I was working on Gridiron Survivor was AI. Dive on in, learn AI. I'm not following the trend in hiring as much right now because I've kind of stepped back from social media as I've just been focusing on the new career for these first 6 months. But I have seen some things where people go into interviews, they ask them to do some stuff with AI. They can't. They're like, sorry, we want people who are more familiar with AI because it's a measure of proficiency. So I would say keep a close eye on what's happening with AI in the industry and try to incorporate AI into your day-to-day workflow, whether it's with coding, managing your life, whatever.
Awesome. So this is a combination, two-part question. Okay. Bethany is asked. All right. And whenever you guys do movie heads, I know that I'm not frozen. uh, Bethany and Hayden are asking, like, how was your Gridiron Survivor experience helpful for your job search? First part would be soft skills, and the second part would be like technical skills.
Soft skills, learning to work with the team, learning to communicate, resolve conflict. There's going to be decisions made that you may not agree with, and you got to deal with it. You got to be okay with that. Go with the flow. Learning how to manage your time. When you guys are working Gridiron Survivor, I'm sure some of you have day jobs that you're doing other things to bring in income right now. You have full-time jobs, whatever. When I was on Gridiron Survivor, it was 20 hours. I was doing, I think, 20, 25 hours a week. And I just made it a priority for myself. So I think those are a lot of the soft skills that it gave me. Technical skills, unit testing, writing good tests, a good understanding of Git at all levels, whether it's resolving merge conflicts or just working with the team on features, making sure, hey, I'm pushing this in, it's going to be a breaking change. Make sure you pull down your branches and update. Let's hear what else technically. Next.js, I think I just got a little bit more comfortable with TypeScript and Next.js. I was pretty comfortable jumping in, but I think I learned a little bit more just on my own by jumping in and doing some big features. And I think in general, with those two combined in the job search, it definitely helped in a sense that, this .labs is they're all over the place, meaning they're on Twitter, they're on TikTok, they're on, are you familiar with the new TikTok, Sky Social?
The one that you guys built?
The one that we built. Yep. Well, I didn't build, but we have an awesome team that's working on it.
Hey, you built it. Yes, your team, you built it.
But yes, but it's what we're doing, and we've invested in as well. So, they were familiar with what Gridiron Survivor and Shashi was doing, and Shashi knows their team as well, so he was able to. I think here's the benefit, the big benefit, and I'm just going to double down on it. Shashi, if he believes that you're able to do it, he has enough experience to be able to tell, yes, you're ready, no, you're not ready. He will reach out to people and vouch for you. Now, that is not the end all solution, but that's enough to maybe get you into the door and prove your skills to somebody. So I think all of those combined helped. What I've seen things work for other people, when you're in Gridiron Survivor, one of the things I don't see often is, how often, I'm just going to pick on someone, Hoodie, how often do you record videos of what you're doing and learning and post to Twitter, post to LinkedIn, and post to all those places?
I don't know if I've posted a video where I'm actually recording myself.
Right.
Coding. Yeah.
Right. Why?
I don't know why.
Exactly. Okay. See, so building in public, you guys are working on an app right now. You are developers in an
Preach
app.
it.
Why are you
Preach
not
it.
posting, not to promote Gridiron? You are promoting yourself. You should be, as you're working on something, like, hey, you come across a bug, figure out what the bug was, and make a short 30-second video on that bug. Recreate it, do what you got to do, and post about it. Hey, Gridiron Survivor team, working on the Gridiron Survivor team. I was putting this project, man, did you know this about Next.js? It does XYZ. I didn't know that. There's going to be someone out there who does and doesn't know that. It doesn't matter. If you're not building in public and posting, that is your resume. Saying that you're on Gridiron Survivor, cool, right? Shashi knows a lot of people, it could get you connections. But if you're just at home participating in Gridiron Survivor and that's it, and just showing up on the live streams, you're getting the experience, but you're not getting exposure. And that exposure is what is going to get you seen for your skill sets. And a lot of people have been hired based on their building in public. so you double down on what you're doing. You got content right in front of you. Use the good, use the bad. Oh my gosh, I made the most stupid mistake. I didn't put a bracket here. I forgot the quotes, or I did camel case instead of, and post about it. Like, how many of you have done this? Dope, silly me, right?
Man, that's a great point. I brought that up in our meeting too, is continue to build in public. And as you speak about that, I have my friend Mary. She will join our stream in about 2 weeks here. She has three three successful stories of landing jobs by building in public. She has no portfolio, no CV, nothing. She's a self-taught dev that built in public on Twitter, and she got 3 job offers from that consecutively. Not the same time, but she's still growing with it. So she'll be joining us in a few weeks here too. I do have another question for you from Bethany. Looking back, is there anything that you do differently with your job search or your career or your growth or anything that you might do from the beginning? Or maybe something that you might do sooner?
That is a really good question. Let me think on this for a second. I would have learned from my mistakes of just applying for independent contributor roles and not doubling down on my soft skills. Now, that is my unique situation. Everyone, I don't know all the people on the call, so I don't know everyone's soft skills and their backgrounds, but what I should have done is looked at more engineering lead type roles earlier on. I didn't realize that was the end for me because I was just so tunnel visioned on, I want to be a dev and write code every day. And I still get to code. I probably did 3 PRs today. I did probably 2 PRs last week, but I'm also, managing the team, the projects, timeline and all that stuff. So I wish I would have doubled down on my soft skills earlier and leveraged my management. And I think that would have maybe opened things up sooner. However, I will say that I absolutely love working for this lab. So I'm not, I'm glad it happened as it happened because this has been a great place for me to grow, learn, improve, and actually showcase some of the skills that I do have coming in.
I think it's a great point. And something that I brought up to this team too is for me to identify sometimes, like if I say, hey, Cody, like you're really good at technical writing and technical documentation. Well, what do you think about switching over to a technical engineer, right? Because that's going to fit your needs better and we can get you through the door faster. That's what I do too, is I'll recognize some things and recommend some things because obviously everybody wants to break into tech, right? You want to get in, you want to get a job quick. It doesn't mean that's your all and be all role. It just means you're in and that's a start, right? It's not the finish. So if you can get in and get going, that's a win.
Mm-hmm. And I would say this too. Once you're in, if you're in doing something that's a little bit off from coding, like if you're a tech engineer and you're writing documentation on code and you can verify if the code's correct and working. And even in my position, in early on, while the team was working on maintaining the current app, I was working with a third-party provider to integrate with their API and learn their API, play around with it, work on queries, create dummy data, and get everything set up so that when it came time to write tickets for the team and answer questions for the team, I was able to create some POCs. I was able to provide them the technical details needed. And that's all stuff I would have had to do anyway if I was working on it on the side. So, use the skills that you have. It doesn't mean that you will never code again. And even if you're in a position for a short period of time where you're just writing documentation, doesn't mean you can't write code on the weekends like you do now.
All right, I got a question for you. The difference between pre-Gridiron Survivor and post-Gridiron Survivor when you went into interviews or when you were networking with individuals. Did you see the difference of how people perceived you, because maybe now you have, you know, more experience in the process and like understanding how to work with other members and whatnot.
Yeah, so pre Gridiron Survivor, my only connection was to other developers was conferences, right? But once you leave a conference, you're really not doing much. So pre Gridiron Survivor, I wasn't confident really working in a team. I was working, maybe helping other, I helped James Quick out with a project. It was just him and I working it. So that's really not a lot of people working on it. I mean, it was great. He was an awesome person to do some free work for and get some mentorship. It was awesome. But um it's, oh no, did we lose? Oh no, Shashi's still there. I'm losing my train of thought. It's been a long day. Shashi, can you remind me of the question again? I'm so sorry.
No worries. Just the differences of when you would speak to people like pre GIS and post GIS.
Pre-GIS, non-confident, didn't really understand the lingo to talk through. It was like, yeah, I'm just, creating this app. Cool. Get into Gridiron Survivor. Again, it's that communication piece. So learning how to communicate with one another. You're leveling up your tech knowledge, your vocabulary. And then coming out of that, I was able to utilize the vocabulary even while I was in it to tell people what we were doing. And people go, oh, wow, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot for free and working on that team. And it's like, yes, I'm trying to get the experience. And I think there's been a lot of people who have seen the value in that experience from previous Gridiron Survivor folks who have been hired on to other teams. So less confident before, didn't have a strong tech vocabulary outside of what I was learning. Jump into Gridiron Survivor, you're learning from a lot of people with a lot of different experiences and backgrounds. Your tech vocabulary grows, and then you can speak more confidently to that afterwards when you're searching for your roles and in your next role. If you're in an interview and they go, well, talk to me about a time you had a conflict. Well, did you have a conflict in Gridiron Survivor? What was that conflict? What was the technical conflict? How did you handle it? What did you do with it? You have a specific experience to pull from. So Gridiron Survivor provided very unique opportunities to answer questions that only someone who's worked in a dev job before would have been able to answer.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is that Gridiron Survivor simulates a day-to-day that you would go through at a job. And yes, it's not a exact one-to-one, but this whole program is set up so that you're getting experience working cross-functionally with experienced individuals, with other juniors, taking tasks and all that. And like Chris said, like you have those experiences of success and failure. And it goes a long way when you can speak about that. Because I always tell everybody that joins, is like, you would rather fail with me than go fail with your new employer. And they're like, hey, this person is incompetent. Well, I'm not going to think that. I'm just going to say, hey, you're learning. Let me help you learn. Right.
Yep.
Awesome. Any other questions before I wrap this up?
I had one more.
Yep,
During
go
your
ahead.
interview process, during your interview process for this dot, you said you were given a take home. How did you prepare for that take home?
How did I prepare for the take home that I did?
Yeah.
There was no preparation for the take home. I mean, basically the take home code challenge that I did was I had to create an app with specific requirements. I'm not allowed to divulge what that is because they still give it to all
Of
the
course.
people they interview. But I got to choose the stack that I'm most comfortable with. I had to create an app. I had to integrate it with an API and had specific requirements. Focus being, make it look nice, but really they're looking for how you code the actual technical functionality of the application. They started giving you a 4-hour time limit. They told me they're getting rid of that. And so it was I did it in about 6 hours. But it was I doubled down on what I knew. So if you're someone who is playing around with 4 different stacks, you're playing around with Astro, you're playing around with Next.js, you're playing around with Vue or Svelte, choose one that you're really confident in and learn it, right? if you can learn one, you can learn the others. And that's from someone who worked Next.js and JavaScript, who's learning a PHP framework.
Sweet. All right. I'm going to wrap this up, but my last question to you, Chris, is what are you currently doing, or is there anything that you're doing in social media or something that we can follow along, or
Yeah.
you know?
You can follow me on Twitter at IamWix, IAMWIX. That's a great place if I'm gonna. I have a lot of projects that I put on hold. I want to start I want to start a website for developers and productivity, and I want to start a podcast there as well, because it's something that I'm working on as a developer and jumping into this role, and what's important, not important from a day-to-day perspective. But yeah, right now all things are on hold. My focus is just continuing to adjust to the new role and doing well at my new tech job, and then eventually, probably towards later this year, I'll start doing more social media stuff and whatnot. I'll be at Render ATL, so if you're going to Render ATL, make sure you say hello. And yeah, that's about it. You can follow this.labs. If you go to my Instagram, my Twitter, IamWix, you can get all the information for this.labs and follow them, and you can see all the things that they're doing and the podcast that they're having, and they're doing a lot of great content right now. So
Awesome. Well, Chris, it's always great to have you, and it's been a pleasure to see your growth and success. And I know that you're gonna just make headways and continue to just be awesome. So I know it's just the first 6 months, but like hopefully in like 5 years we'll be like, hey, CTO Chris Nowicki.
No.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to see it, but no, I appreciate you taking the time to have me on, and Shashi, once I get later on in the year, I'd love to jump on and be a part of helping the team however I can. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We're going to try to stream 2 weeks or so. But definitely watch out. I definitely did a poor job advertising this time. I forgot it was Thursday. I thought it was Wednesday.
I thought it was Friday all day, man. So,
oh gosh. Yeah, so it's been crazy. But thank you, and on to the next one.
Alrighty, y'all.
Bye.
Catch you later.